company, and she was no longer there in the office, or I believe working for terminated.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about how you had occasion to see her while you were working for another company.
Well, the last time I saw Dannette at her home, I was working for Middleton Pest Control. Dannette looked like a totally different person. It was not the person that I hired. Like her body had just deteriorated. She couldn't, basically, almost like she couldn't even walk. Couldn't walk, couldn't move.
What was the occasion? Give us a little bit of background about how you came about to see her and come across her.
Another one of my salesmen, in fact, told me she was home, and I was on that street doing an inspection for another home. In fact, that's when I found out where she lived, because I never knew where Dannette lived. But when I was at her home, I saw how she was moving, how she acted, how she looked. She looked beautiful.
Okay, and that second time, I think you mentioned that she looked different and her body had changed a little bit. Did you tell us a little bit about, did you have an occasion to talk to her?
I talked with her a lot. She was under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. She was unemployed. She single mom trying to raise a son with no ways, no income, and no way to try to even get any income.
Did she tell you anything about her discomfort, the parts of her body that caused her discomfort at that time?
Her back, her neck, her legs, she could barely move.
And I know this is also tough, and you can't do it tough. Could you give us some more details about what she told you or anything like that? Was it sharp, dull?
Other than she was asking, did I know anyone that could help her? She was struggling, trying to make ends meet, keep the lights on, trying to keep her computer up and running so she can try to seek a job or talk to someone. She just needed help.
Okay. How long did you talk to her at that time?
I talked with her for at least an hour because she needed someone to talk to and tell what was going on.
Okay. Did you ever see her again after that time at her house?
I haven't seen Dannette since, and that had to be 2000, definitely 2008, 2009.
Okay. Did you see, what about, did you ever see her sometime with your wife or something?
I saw her once with my wife. She was in a car. I forget where it was. So I introduced my wife to her.
Okay. And how about that conversation? How long was that?
That may have been 10, 15 minutes. No more than that.
Was that, do you remember if that was before or after the time you saw her at her house?
I believe that was after I saw her at her home.
Okay. And did she tell you anything about what symptoms she was having that time?
Same systems. She was still back problems, neck problems, a lot of pain, no help, no one to turn to.
Okay.
Nothing had changed.
Okay. And before I forget to ask, just going to back up a little bit. When she was working at Terminex, about how much was she getting paid?
She was on salary plus commission. If it was just salary, that would have been $2,000 a month. Then that was making much more than salary because her sales was almost through the roof. She was equally my number one salesman, which was doing anywhere to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month.
So you said $50,000 a month in sales?
Yes. If averaging those type of sales, and she was being paid anywhere from 6 to 10% of the total sales, Dannette should have been making anywhere $40,000, $50,000.
Okay. All right. All right. Did she? You just mentioned, I guess, that she was applying for work online. Did you Tell you what, when she was standing there when you met her, saw her with her wife, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you tell the jury a little bit about her demeanor when she was standing up?
She couldn't stand long. She would have to lean. Dannette lost a lot of weight. Just her entire body, everything had changed. But standing, she couldn't stand. Not for any period of time. She would definitely have to stand.
Okay. One second. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Lear. Appreciate your time.
Hey, Cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Lear.
Hi, how you doing?
We've had the occasion to speak with each other before. I'm Matt Fisher, and I represent Mr. Baptiste here, Dr. Baptiste. Now, you worked with Terminex along with Dannette, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you were her sales manager. How long were you working with Dannette before the incident we're here for? About 3 months?
Either March, April, until I left definitely in September.
And the reason you left in September was what?
One was seeking other employment because I wanted to go higher in the company. And they didn't have a store or branch management position. I was acting as the regional sales manager for Sarasota branch, Northport branch, and Fort Myers at the time.
So you chose to move on.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you saw, how many times did you see Dannette Griffith from the time you hired her until the incident we're here for? You mentioned you went down to Fort Myers. Were you staying down there mostly?
No, I would commute back and forth every day.
Oh, okay.
But prior to going to Fort Myers, I saw Dannette every day. The sales team had to meet every day there at the office, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 to definitely 8 to 5, unless I had a sales meeting at 4 o'clock where we was getting together to set up appointments for the next day.
And then you saw her the one time after the incident we're here for when she was in the office doing light duty?
Yes, sir.
All right. And was it about that time when she was doing light duty that you chose to leave Terminex?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you don't know anything about why Dannette left Terminex, do you?
No.
All right. And then when you saw her the next time, it was around 2009 at her house?
About that time, yeah.
Okay. And she did not look good to you then?
No, sir.
All right. And y'all spoke for, what, an hour or so?
Definitely an hour plus.
And then you saw her with your wife, I believe it was in a parking lot, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then you spoke with her then. And would that be around the year 2010, 2009, 2010?
I can't say it was 2009, 2010.
When do you think? The last time you saw her?
I would say in 2009.
Okay.
Just nothing rings a bell to remind me about 2010.
Okay.
It's kind of hard for me to go back and pull up that number.
So 2009, tell the jury what she looked like to you then.
First of all, Dannette was, when I hired Dannette was a very attractive woman. Healthy, strong, plenty of energy, personality. There was no reason whatsoever a customer could say no to Dannette if she had an appointment. Dannette lost, definitely had to be 50 pounds. Dannette didn't even look like the same woman.
When you saw her in 2009?
When I saw Dannette, I would not have hired Dannette to do anything. She needed to be in a bed.
Are you aware of any restrictions on what she was not, certain things she wasn't able to do after the accident?
She wasn't able to walk around this courtroom. She was told to sit down. She had to stay sitting. When I talked with her at home, Dannette couldn't get up to answer the door.
Okay. That's what you saw at that time. And you haven't seen her since?
I haven't seen her since My wife and I both saw it. That's the last time I seen that.
And you don't know, well, tell me what you do know, what Dannette told you about the accident we're here for. What kind of accident was it?
She never went into detail with me with the accident, other than she was in an accident. She was at lunch. She didn't know who to call, what to do. Didn't know how Terminex would take it. I told her, you pick up the telephone, you treat it like any other accident, you call the police.
And that's it?
You get a police report and go from there.
That's all you know about the accident?
That's all I know about the accident.
Do you know anything about the damage to her car?
No, sir.
That there was any damage?
No, sir.
All right. So you haven't seen her since around 2009. Do you know about anything about, have you spoken to her on the phone?
I spoke with her on the phone when she asked me would I testify and give a character reference.
What you're doing now?
Yes.
Okay.
And I told her I had no problem telling the truth.
All right. And when did she call you up to ask you to do this?
That was last June, July.
So really the only knowledge you have of Ms. Griffith is just what you told us today.
Is it?
Okay. All right. Thanks, sir.
Hey, you were
Thank you, John.
all right, so you may step down. Hey, call your next, please.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to call. Iris Easton, let me just check.
Okay.
That's fine.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Please, court, counsel.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon. Would you mind introducing yourself to the jury?
Hello, my name is Iris Eastman.
And Ms. Easton, where do you currently reside?
I reside in Bradenton, Florida. You want the address?
Actually, that's okay, since it's going down on permanent record, all that. That's accepted. But why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us where you're currently employed.
I'm currently employed as the executive director of Satchel's Last Resort. It's an animal shelter sanctuary in Clark Road, Sarasota.
How long have you been there?
I've been there about 4.5 years.
And how long have you been here for?
14 years.
Well, this jury here is going to have to make some decisions about the harms and losses that occurred that resulted to Dannette Griffith as a result of a crash that happened back on June 6, 2007. Are you okay to talk about that for a little bit today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and start off from the beginning and tell us a little bit about how you first met Dannette Griffith.
I met Dannette through my boyfriend at the time. We both were working at a car dealership in Bradenton, Ghetto Toyota, and we just became fast friends, all of us together, doing things like going out to the comedy club, going to the dog park, going to her house for dinner.
What year was that? You remember?
2002, 2003, at least somewhere on it.
Okay. And how often did you have the occasion to speak to her back then, whenever 2002 and 3 first met?
Can't say, definitely 45 times a month, if not more. We've helped each other. She helped me with some things. We helped her. Her computer broke. We go over, just, fun, easy going, sit by the pool. She'd always cook a fabulous meal.
Okay. And so go ahead and tell the jury a little bit about, they're going to have to know how well you know her. Give an idea of some of the things you guys would do together.
Always different. More socialization. Being that I worked at the animal shelter, she had a couple dogs. We loved her dog dads, and so we always go over and we go to the dog park together. Her dogs, my dogs. Have fun. Have coffee. We like the comedy club. We like to go laughing, And again, it was mostly Dannette's always keep in touch with us to have dinner and always said you had to relax because I work too much.
Okay, and so you mentioned the dog park. Can you mention some of the things that, well, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what type of person she was? Was she athletic, or more lazy, relaxed? Something like that.
Oh no, she's active. She doesn't care to sit around much. She always wants to do something. She likes to walk the beach. She's always off doing something, walking her dog, cooking long big dinners. Always wants to do something. The woman had lots of stamina.
Okay. Did she tend to be an honest person, or did you ever have occasion to think that she'd be less intrusive?
Oh, never.
All right. And do you know, just the background, you don't know anything about the crash itself, correct?
Just very little. I know there was an accident. I know she was hurt, and I remember urging her all the time to go see a doctor, go see another doctor. She just couldn't get better, get over it.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about, if you don't mind, let's kind of back up a little bit. And back in 2002 and 3, you said you saw her 4 or 5 times a month, so that almost once a week or more. Was it pretty consistent like that?
I can say it varied. It was 4 or 5 times one month, maybe twice the next month. It varied, but it was definitely a few times a month, definitely. Okay. At least talking on the phone and seeing her, meeting up for coffee, something.
Okay. And now let's kind of talk about, fast forward a little bit to just the last couple of years before this crash here in June 6, 2007. In the last few years, did you ever have occasion to find out that she was, did she ever complain to you about any injuries or pain or anything like that?
Dannette's not a big complainer, but yes, I mean, I know I'd go to her house for dinner and we'd have pizza because she couldn't cook the meals anymore. She can't stand on her feet very long. She was uncomfortable. Like I say, he wasn't a complainer, but she'd sit propped up in the couch.
So we're talking, this back up, we're still talking before the accident.
Oh, before the accident, I'm sorry.
In the 2 years before the accident.
2 years, okay.
And a couple of years before the accident, how was she doing that? How often did you see her?
Oh, same now. It varies.
Okay. And the same stuff you talked about that you guys are doing in common?
Yes.
And how about in the last 2 months before the crash? How was she doing that?
I think the same. I didn't notice anything different. I mean, just, we both get busy, but then we always catch up. So, but she always acted the same. No, she was never complaining about anything.
Okay. When was the first time you were speaking to Dannette Griffith after the crash?
I think it was like the next day or the second day after.
Okay. And tell us about that.
She was pretty shook up about it, and just pretty much bummed that it even happened. And she was quite uncomfortable, hurting, but she really brushed it off. She, she knew that she was hurt, but she thought she was going to get better. It was not a big deal.
Okay. And what kind of hurting?
Her neck was bothering her. Her neck and part of her back.
Okay. So, how do you remember? Walk us through the first week after the crash. Do you remember how many times you spoke to her? Was it more than once?
Probably only once, maybe twice. No. She didn't say she was having headaches and she didn't feel good. But she was resting because that's what she needed to do.
And how did the weeks that followed the crash of June 6, 2007 evolve?
The same. We'd meet for dinner, but I just saw that she would say, "Oh, I guess I'm still sore. I guess I still hurt." And, the activity just got shorter. We go to the dog park. I better go home. I'm not feeling well.
Okay. And tell the jury here how you watched that progression from June 6, 2007 on.
Well, we got to the point that the only time I've seen Dannette in the last couple of years is at her house and not feeling well. I mean, I did see her at a convenience store one time. We hugged, but she was leaving just for Minnesota. And I saw her at the comedy club, but she had a hard time sitting still. She had to get up and go outside. So she did come back, and that was probably just a year and a half ago, maybe the comedy club was. Go to her house, we sat around the pool a little bit, but she was clearly uncomfortable. The last time I remember is I had to stop by her house quickly. I mean, I just saw at the door for a quick hug, and she goes, I got an awful headache, my back was bothering me, I've got to lay down. And that was probably just a few months ago.
Okay. And tell us a little about after the crash, and I totally interrupted you, and I'm sorry about that. You were explaining about how she was sitting down or something like that.
Yeah, when, if we go out to the comedy club, it's a 2-hour-long thing. She'd be all excited. She'd love to get out. Let's go laughing. Let's like old times. This is great. But we'd get there and then she'd be itching in the seat and I don't know, lose her neck. You can tell she's uncomfortable. You can tell she's by her eyes. You can see she's painful. And then she'd have to get up, walk out for a little bit, and then come back in.
Did she start to use the type of person to complain a lot, or did it look like she was trying to hide it?
Well, she just not hiding it, but she's not flaunting it. She doesn't complain. She just said, "I'm sorry, honey." She says, "I'm sorry, I hope I'm not ruining your time." She's just very kind and generous. I mean, she just doesn't want to waste someone's time or waste the effort. So she's would apologize and just, "I'm really sorry, you know, it's really bothering me more now." That's about all she would say. She never really got into details about it.
Did you guys ever have conversations about the medications?
Oh yeah, a little bit. Like it would bother her and she doesn't want to take the medication because it would make her nauseated. She didn't like the medication at all. She was trying, I know she was calling the doctor for something different because she was just making her sick.
So you mentioned earlier you mentioned that you guys did make it to the dog park at least once or twice. A lot of times, did you say once or twice after the crash?
Oh yeah, it was probably a few more times after the crash. I mean, you know, a couple times a year, but we used to go with weekly or monthly, but it was probably only a couple times a year after the crash. And the same thing, she didn't stay very long. It was hard for her to even walk her dog. And he was getting older and easier to walk, but it was hard for her to even walk him.
And what about the other things? What about the dinners? What changed about the dinners?
Oh, she used to cook turkey dinners and ham dinners and homemade mashed potatoes, homemade desserts, and it turned into pizza.
Okay.
Think of something, grab to go, come have some fun, and sit down for a quick bite, and off you go.
And what would tell us a little about the changes in her social life between before June 6, 2007 and after?
Well, even I think the social life, I mean, it was a slow progression going down. It wasn't anything really fast. I mean, everything got shorter in duration, but it was slow progression where it got down to the point where now we text each other mostly. We don't even, she doesn't call much. We just text and just check how she's doing, and that's it. And she still tells me I work too much.
Well, we need to give her.
No, she's great.
And can you think of anything else? You guys mentioned any other effects that you've seen in her? How long she typically walk with you, or we start hearing complaints?
We used to go to like the boat parade. We'd be together for 4 hours walking downtown, all over, down to the boat parade. And got to the point, the last boat parade we went to was probably not last year, but the year before, maybe 3 years ago. And she didn't even stay till it finished. She left. You know, I see she's lost weight. Like I said, it's hard to go to me. She doesn't complain. She's just not a complainer. She's just always, "I'm so sorry, honey. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not wasting your time. I know you're busy." That's how she always talks. "I'm sorry. Maybe we'll get together. You know, I'll feel better next week. I'll call you."
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Secretary. Anyone else institutional has some questions? Your Honor?
Yes.
May I?
Absolutely. True it is.
Afternoon. So, how long have you known Dannette?
2002, 2003, so 11, 12 years.
Okay. And after the accident, how often would you see Dannette in the year 2007?
Okay. I would say right after the accident was probably not that first week, but the after week, a couple times a week. We'd still be 2-3 times a month.
Okay. And was it that kind of interaction just before the accident as well?
Yes.
Okay.
It fluctuated because of my job. I'm sorry.
And you mentioned your boyfriend?
Yes.
And she were friends?
Yes.
And they worked at a car dealership?
They didn't work very long at the car dealership together, maybe a summer.
Do you know, where else did Dannette work before?
She worked for National Awakening, a magazine. She sold some advertising. There's some different different thing. She was mostly selling sales.
Good.
Harley Davidson shop, she's worked there.
She sold several jobs.
Yes, and mostly sales.
And after the accident, are you aware of any jobs that she's had other than with Terminex?
I'm not.
Okay.
Recommend
How far away do you live?
20 minutes.
20 minutes? So do you still get together with her on a frequent basis?
I haven't lately, not the last year or so. I definitely took over this company and I'm working 8 hours a week, but
Yeah.
talking, just seen her at her house. That's it, the last.
Okay, so you go over and visit every now and then? Okay. Now, did she tell you anything about the accident that we're here for?
I'm trying to remember, I believe she's rear-ended, that's all I know.
Okay, she told you she was rear-ended?
Yes.
Now,
Sorry.
think when we get to up to a few years after the accident, in the year 2009, how did she appear to you then?
I'm going to put it in relation to something. Excuse me one moment. Okay. In 2009 is probably when I saw her one deteriorating.
Okay.
So going to her house a bit fast. She was still cooking. I think her she had a couple of dogs, and one of the dogs passed away in 2008 or 9.
So that's a good reference point for you.
Yeah, that's what I remember going to her house. It was so sad.
Okay. And then around 2010, was she in this, like that same condition?
Yeah, she was still doing everything that I remember, just shorter duration.
Okay. So she was doing everything?
She would cook dinner, but instead of like the long turkey dinners, it would be, hamburgers or something quick.
Yeah, you mentioned that food reference a
She's a
few
great
times.
cook. Yeah.
So
She always cooks for us, that's what she did.
what is it other than not being able to cook a big turkey dinner that you noticed about Dannette in the year 2009, 2010 that she wasn't doing what she was doing before the accident?
She can't do anything for any length of time, so there's no long walks. There's no, she had trouble carrying things. She was dropping things at her house. I mean, I always had to help her with the dishes and so forth, so she would drop things. And let's see what else. I just saw a slow progression of her not being able to do the things that we always did before, which would be go to the comedy club and the dog park.
And how often do you see her now?
I've seen her, I think I started just a couple months ago, probably 3-4 times last year total.
And the same for the year 2012?
No, 2012 I saw her much more.
Did you? Okay. Now, are you aware of Dannette being involved in any accidents after the accident with her?
Vaguely. There was something. I can't remember. There was one accident, there was nothing, there was another accident, there was something. So I'm sorry, I don't know the details.
Okay.
I think there was 2 auto accidents. I thought they were a year or 2 years apart.
Think about after the accident we're here for. Did she tell you that she's involved in any other accidents after the accident we're here for?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I remember because the one was very minor. It was nothing. It was a fender bender. And that was a year or 2 before this one, I believe. Yes. Because I didn't see anything different at that time.
She never spoke to you about being involved in the fall down, slip and falls, anything like that?
No, sir.
All right. Did you notice that she appeared to be on medication?
Yeah, I've seen her on medication, and then she would not like it. I know that. She had issues with the medication more than once.
And what are the issues?
One made her so tired she couldn't keep up. The other one, she couldn't make her sick to her stomach really bad. And I know there were others. I know there were several different medications. Sorry, I don't know the types or anything like that, but I know that she tried something new. She tried something new. I know she tried a muscle relaxer. That didn't work. She tried some things like that. She would mention it, mostly that it just, sorry, the language was nothing works with them. That's what she said, nothing works.
And you don't know anything about this accident we're here for other than you think it was a rear-end accident?
I'm not quite sure how this one happened, but no, very little.
Okay.
I know because she didn't make a big more, just upset that it happened. He didn't make a big deal about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, for your record.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, now you may step down. Just plan to have another witness to step down.
Time for today, Your Honor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be able to get you out of here a little bit early today. I just wanted to let you know, after talking to the attorneys, I think scheduling-wise, we're really on course. We may go up to 4:30 tomorrow, but Thursday, talking to the lawyers, I think we may be able to end early Thursday afternoon, so you can sort of plan your day around that. We should get this case to you for your deliberation, hopefully mid-morning, lunchtime, Friday. Deliberations, so during the lunch period, we'll make arrangements for you to have lunch during that time. So I just want to give you a little idea. Obviously, things are subject to change, but that's how it's looking so far. So if you will leave your notepads on that table there right in front of you, available to collect those, nobody will see them. And I ask that you, again, not discuss this case, not do any independent research. Don't discuss the case until it's time to deliberate, and you are excused until tomorrow at 9 a.m. Okay, is there anything we need to put on the record before we adjourn?
No, sir. We're going to enter into...
One second.
You know what? I'm sorry.
We're going to mark her.
We're going to put our evidence in.
All right.
You can pass it, we'll just this.
How many do you have? You have an exhibit list for me?
Sure. Number one, which is Doctor's Hospital. Number two, Sarasota Memorial Hospital. Number three, Ambulatory Service Center. Number four, Dr. Base Creepy. Number five, Physician Group. 6, Final Associates. 7, Dr. Deeds. 8, Dr. Murphy, NERC. Number 9, Brian James. Number 10, Robert Halligan. Number 11, Healthcare American Medical Group. Number 12, Sarah Lee. Number 13, Tan Lee. Number 14, Robert Schubert. 15, back in motion physical therapy. 16, Ronald Tom Lynn. 17, B-Rich Family Practice. 18, Anthony Moreno, MD. 19, Jennifer Hall, Driver's Assessment. 20, Choice Diagnostic Imaging. 21, Physician's Choice MRI. 22, Rose Radiology. 23, Walgreens Prescription List. 24, Composite Prescription Receipts. 25, the Medical Bill Summary Composite. Number 26 are the floor photographs of the plan. Number 27, property damage photographs. 28, photographs of the crash site. 29, Social Security agreement statement. That
Okay, so these are the plaintiff's exhibits. Did the defense have any objections to any of those exhibits just noted as being introduced?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so first, to note that all of these exhibits just announced by the plaintiff will be introduced.
I will now hand them to the clerk. Yes, Your Honor. And I thank you for having us. Need more stickers. If there's some extra stickers, if there's a problem, let me know. I will have to. In the morning? Okay, that's fine. I actually thought it was morning. And we're also going to be using that little process. Okay. I'm going to be using that as a
Okay, and the defense, you want to wait for your case, or you want a lot more?
Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow morning. I'll get it on.
Okay, all right, just make certain the clerk gets the exhibit listed at the time, and we'll go over the hopefully,
I'm Christina.